Good afternoon. Welcome to the Little Hollywood Movie Museum. This is a free, non-profit museum that is dedicated to preserving the movie sets from the Kanab area's Little Hollywood glory days when hundreds of westerns were shot here. We also focus on ongoing film production and continuing education. Mostly what we have are movie sets, and we start with this one right here, which is the backdrop for a Kenny Loggins music video special shot in the north rim of the Grand Canyon. Hollywood in music tends to be wasteful in the way they produce stuff, but they're not as wasteful as you might think because they make things in a minimal fashion. This is put together with 1x4s, not 2x4s. It's stapled together. It's not really meant to stand any longer than a couple of weeks. We cobble it together and keep it going, so it's been up since 1991 when it was shot. And you notice you can walk on in, so you can get a good sense of how things were constructed. Just a couple of braces here to keep it standing up rather than a real frame that holds it up. If we move on, we're going to find these really substantial adobe buildings. Now these buildings are all from the Outlaw Josey Wales. The Outlaw Josey Wales is probably one of Clint Eastwood's most famous movies. It was a Western shot in 1976. These sets came from up in Kanab Canyon where Best Friends is today. And when I first bought this place, the owners told me, yeah, this is the main set from the Outlaw Josey Wales. So I went, all right, I better watch the movie. And I'm watching the movie and I'm watching the movie and I'm 2 hours into it. I think it's a pretty long movie and no set. So I'm wondering how this can be the main set if it's 2 hours in and it's not there. Well, then comes the climax. And indeed, this is the main set because this is where the Outlaw Josey Wales finally finds his home. This is where they have a really huge gun battle, and as is common throughout that movie, they kill lots of people. But one of the things that's most interesting about these sets is that they appear to be adobe. They're fiberglass. This whole thing probably only weighs about 300 pounds. So when it came time to preserve it and move it out of the river valley at Best Friends, where it probably would have got flooded out if it hadn't been moved, it wasn't that big of a deal because you just pick them up on a forklift and transport them. So this is the house that served as the centerpiece of the climax of the Outlaw Josey Wales. And it's one that was used both interiors and exteriors. And even the interior is done out of fiberglass. I actually intentionally leave some of the paint peeling so that you can see that the interior walls are fiberglass. I've never really understood why you'd bother, but that was Warner Brothers, and I think they know what they're doing, so we just like to preserve what they did. Over here we have a homestead set from a Disney movie called One Little Indian. Now, One Little Indian, it isn't a Western. Most of the movies shot out here were Westerns, but not all of them. There was actually a huge variety of movies shot here. Things like The Greatest Story Ever Told was a biblical epic, and it was shot up at Coral Pink Sand Dunes. This was also shot up at Best Friends, and the barn that was part of this set is still up at Best Friends and being used as a horse barn. Not available for the public to go look at or tour or anything, but it's there and it's still a set. It's in the same little meadow. You can see that this has a log cabin base, but again, that's part of the illusion. Those are really just 1x12s with some chicken wire to hold the chinking in place. This I call my vagabond windmill. And I call it a vagabond windmill because it gets used in different movies in lots of different places. Probably the most famous person to use this is Kiefer Sutherland, who used it for Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, something that he starred and directed. And he took this whole assembly over to the Grafton Ghost Town where he shot some of that movie. It was most recently used for The Attic Door, which was a student film partially financed through Kane County tax dollars as an incentive to get people to come to the area to start filming again. The set right next to it over here was the main house from the attic door. It's an interesting approach to building a set. It was built here in a warehouse in Kanab, bolted together in sections, transported by truck out to the Paria, and set up right in the middle of a huge floodplain. Used for the movie shoot, then dismantled by some friends and I, and brought back here where we reassembled it, all without any damage because it's done with nuts and bolts. It's meant to be taken down, put back together, and reused wherever you need it to be in a film. The other cool thing about this is that you can see it's one-story construction, but in the movie it was a two-story house. So the second story was all just part of a CG game. And moving around to this part of the facility, we have a really heavy-duty stone building that was used as a gatehouse for a couple of different movies, but most prominently for the Michael Cimino remake of Desperate Hours that starred Mickey Rourke. And it's just sort of strange to me that these people went to Zion National Park, filmed a lot of stuff within the park, ripping and tearing in the Virgin River in this Mercedes they were cruising around in. But then when it came time to show them entering Zion National Park, they used this, which was installed at the Coxcomb, 40 miles east of Kanab, and does look sort of like Zion, but they went to all the trouble of building this building out of styrofoam when they were already at Zion National Park filming. Inside the dining rooms, there are a lot of photographic memories of some of the films shot in the area. The 3/4 scale Western buildings on the east are actually display areas, areas that will have future exhibits when we get a little more material to display. And that, I think, concludes our tour. It's a VIP tour, even if it's short.